Okay, so this, by the way, the first part, so this tutorial here uh, is the tracing a plan workflow is this tutorial, Rhino 2D tracing a plan. And the way it is organized is in steps. These are the major steps over here. Import image, scale image, draw construction lines, trace the walls, okay? And then there is the steps within that step along this way. And in that, I wrote every command that I used to do it, again, with this little command sign. And I wrote instructions for the step. And I also wrote all of these like other piece of information about like things. So like here it says like steps or 11 inches is a good guess or whatever. Okay, so it's extensively annotated, this file. And the idea is that if you just follow along with this file, like that's what you would need to do. Okay. And also the other thing is, as a starter, this is the precedent. So I've already imported all the drawings and scaled them correctly. So like you will scale one of them so that you have a sense of how to do it. And then you can also refer to the version that I did as a starting point. Okay, so like if you look at this, like here's the Truebeck house, the Venturi house, and here's like there's the plans, 1, 2, 3 plans. Here's the section. Here's the elevation. So they are scaled and like put into boxes in here already. This is in this Core Preps Precedent 2025 file. Okay, so there they all are, and you can refer to this, or you can do it again. Okay, so hopefully, and this part of, by the way, this part of the tutorial is the same thing. Like this is just a different house. I did it twice. I did it once on like a Richardson house, and I did it another on the Lena Babardi house. So it's literally the same thing. This is the tutorial. And actually, this part is the part for after you finish, you're ready to 3D model. So this is the tutorial, okay? That is the part that we're trying to do right now. We're trying to import the drawings, scale them, and draw them up to like, I mean, actually up to like a sort of a reasonable beginning level of detail. Okay, so if you open this file, you see all that stuff. This is a different house. This is later, the rest of the week. So this is what you're trying to do tomorrow with your house. Okay, and basically, what you want to do is you want to import the plan. So the way to do that is to type this command picture. And if you go to the precedents that if you go to your house, so I'm going to go to the one that I'm doing, which is the Lena Babardi glass house. And I've probably organized it. I might not have organized them all the same, but like here are all the photos. And then here are the drawings. So there's a bunch of drawings. In many of them, like here, I got to show you one other thing, which is like if you go to, let's go to Jennifer Bonner here. Yeah, here are the photos. And then these are like drawings that I downloaded from the internet. So there's like a million drawings in here, other drawings. And then the ones that are left in the folder, like I've like aligned these with each other. So like once one is scaled, like the others all line up. So that it's much easier, except for this. I didn't do it for all of them. Like I didn't do it for this one, but the ones that have kind of normal names, plan 01, plan 02, roof, section 01, site, they're all like well aligned with each other. So usually when you download drawings on the internet, they don't line up. They're different sizes, different scales. And like I have gone through and aligned many of the drawings at the same scale. So all we have to do is scale one of them correctly in Rhino. Do you understand what I mean by that? I'm going to start by like doing this command picture. Let me put let me go to the Lina Bavardi glass house, to the drawings, and I think it was, yeah, plan 2. Yeah, this is the one I think I used, okay? Okay, I put it in. This drawing is like extremely, it's not at a scale. Like I don't, if I measure this step, it's that's 2'7" because I just put it in at a random size, right? So like this drawing, even though it was originally drawn to scale, is not at the correct scale in Rhino space. So we have to scale the drawing so that it's the right size. And then the other thing you do, it's very dark. This drawing is kind of hard to see. So if you go to this palette over here and you go over here and you go to this first thing with the wheel and this third button that says, the second button that says material, you can drag the transparency up a little bit and it'll make it lighter. Remember, this is recorded, okay? But like, that's what that is, okay? And then you should select it and you should put it on the images to trace layer. And then the issue is to scale it. So you always need to scale, you always need to check yourself. You can't just scale off one thing. Many things have dimensions. And so this one is relatively easy because it has dimensions. So this says it's very hard to read, but it says 1.4 something. I'm going to guess 1.45. So I'm going to go offset 1.45 meters. And then this looks like a 5 to me. So I'm going to do offset 5 meters. And then that looks like another 5. So I'm going to go offset 5 meters. And then this looks like 5.5. So I'm going to go offset 5.5 meters. And now I'm going to select this drawing and scale it to match those lines. Okay, so I'm going to select this drawing. I'm going to type scale. I'm going to click over here. Like if I click over here, it'll scale from over there. So I'm going to go to one of the lines, click here, and I'm going to go down to the part over here. I'm going to try to align with the center of the blurry gray line. And I'm going to scale it like that. And then I'm just going to look at it. Like, and I can see that it's not exactly, working. Like some things don't look like they're sort of perfectly aligned, right? I'm going to keep going. I think that says 4.9 meters. Sometimes it's hard to read. 4.9 meters. Okay, and now I see like that I kind of missed the end. So it's best to scale off the biggest dimension that you can sort of find. And then you can sort of see that like it's sort of pretty close, but not exactly right. So I feel maybe like not completely confident in this. I might the glass, yeah, that might work. Like line it there, and then go over to here. That looks.
Sometimes they're marking outside the face of the wall. In the outside face of the wall, because what the maximum size of the building could be that they were really trying to meet. So something to look closely at, what is the design actually?
Like this one, I think, yeah, it's a good point. I like, by the way, like, so first of all, I've already done them to the best of my ability. So that's like, but also I think like when I'm doing it, like I know that I'm not completely satisfied with this, but like you can see there's like a lot of vagary. Like it could be like a little wider, a little littler. And you might kind of get it more or less good. But the first thing I do is like, okay, it's approximately the right size. And then I'm going to check in a different direction. And I'm going to check some things in the plan. So like, I'm going to like draw a step. I'm going to draw a polyline for a step. And I'm going to offset this 11 inches. That's a guess for me. 11 inches is the typical dimension of a step. Sometimes in old houses, they can be as small as like 9 or 9.5. But it looks to me like this plan is like a little too big because I can see that I'm sort of like losing my step size as I go on. So I'm going to maybe guess like scaling it down a little bit. And then oh man, I'm sort of screwing it up, aren't I? Like, how did I do it before? Okay, and then I'm gonna go in this direction. Honestly, it takes me about 10 minutes to do it each time. Okay, so here, let's try 0.65, 0.65 meters, 4.5 meters. Looks like 5 meters. Let's take Nancy's suggestion and try to go off the center line of this.
And on physical piece of paper, which in scan, yeah, there's lots of sort of possible.
Yeah, but it's okay as long as we like feel as close as we can get. And as long as the dimensions are reasonable, it's sort of fine. You use the number dimensions, and then you always use the number dimension. You need to check a step, and you need to like sometimes there's something like a scale. There's like a yeah, like in some of these there's like yeah, there like a scale that says this is 10 meters, and you can scale it off that. So you always check a step. Check any big dimensions, check this. You can check beds, because beds are typically like very standard sizes. You can check doors. They're typically like 3 feet to 32 inches. That's 3 feet. Look, that's a 3-foot door. And I wrote this stuff down over here. So I said things to check. Steps, 11 inches is a good guess, but stairs can vary from 10.5 to 12 inches. Older plans might have steps as small as 9 inches. You know, doors are 3 feet. Single doors may vary from 2'6" to 3'6". So if your dimensions are reasonable, it's okay. We don't care if it's like exactly the house that it was, as long as the door is big enough to walk through and the steps are not going to fall off of, right? So like I feel like I'm getting pretty darn close here. Like I'm not exactly hitting every single dimension, but like if let me see if I can keep going. I'll hit 5 meters. That looks like 4.5 meters, 4.5 meters. And then 0.65 again. So it looks like I'm still a little small, which is Funny, because my steps are getting big. They could be 12-inch steps. And I think this column is to the right-hand side. Let's try 12-inch steps. 11.5. Okay, like this is looking pretty good to me. Okay, it's fine. Okay, it's very close. My doors are reasonable sizes. The steps are reasonable sizes. The column lines are basic. The big dimensions are basically hit. Okay, and you can do it, and then you can compare to what I did, and you can see, like, you can see also the things that I measured, like on the one that I did over here. Like you can see what I checked. You can see that I did this. You can see that I checked the steps. You can see that I, checked the bed. Look, I checked these steps. I did that. Okay, right? So you can do your own, and you can like try one, and then you can compare it to what I did. And once it's scaled, that's reality. Okay, as long as things are reasonable sizes. Okay, so once I get here, the next step is I want to put a box around it. Okay, so that I can do this thing that I'm doing here, where like I can keep things like very kind of regular, and that is because like in this plan, like let's say I have a box around this plan, and like I want to copy it over, and I'm going to do some design in here, like I'm going to make a squiggly wall. If I copy it from one box to the other, I can be sure that it's always going to be in the same place. So I can work on my project like in a series. I can change something over here and move it to another drawing. So it's important to have a reference point always around your drawing and put everything in a box. So what I'll do is I'll make a rectangle. I'll go rectangle, center, and then I'll make something with like a fixed dimension. I don't know, like I'll try something. Let's say 100 feet, too small. 200 feet by 200 feet. Okay, maybe that's a little big. Let's scale this. Let's do 75 there, okay? There's a box around this drawing, and I will put that box on this border layer. Okay, so here is like a plan, sort of roughly scaled inside of a box. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the other drawings in. So I'm going to go picture, and I'm going to find this plan 1 aligned. Okay, that's because I think this is the one that I aligned. And I'm going to put it here and drag it so that it's the same width. And if I move this down so that it aligns here, you should see like it mostly aligns with the lower plan. And that's because I already aligned them with each other. So then you can put it on top of this one, and then you can go move it over by the size of the box, and then you can go copy, and you can copy the box over. And then let's say I have these stairs. If I want to draw the same stairs in this plan, I can copy them from this plan to that plan, and they should sort of line up. Okay, so like these are now 2 plans, and like I can copy things back and forth from one plan to the other. So this is a lower plan and an upper plan, and if there's something from one plan, many things are in both, right? Like a column is in the same position in both plans, or a stair goes from one plan to another. And because they were drawn on paper, sometimes they may not be drawn perfectly, but the continuity has to take priority. So whatever is the main plan, if there's things that go from one plan to another, that plan wins. So you'll start with the stairs in one plan and move them to the other. Okay, so I'm going to go over here to the one, get the one that I spent more time aligning, which is this one. Here, and so that we can make sure that it's better aligned. Okay, so these two drawings are the same size as each other. And then if I look at this, okay, if I were to take a line from this plan, like if I were to take a line aligning with this column and drag it up, it's going to like roughly align with the columns in the other one. Okay, so when I draw something over here, like if I'm going to draw, I don't know, like a wall, let's say this is a double height wall, I could take it over here and I could move it to the other one like that. Does that make sense? Okay. Great. Okay. So then I usually, once I've got these two plans in here, like I'm going to ignore one of them. Just going to ignore it and focus more on whatever is the main one that's kind of most easy to draw on. And the first step is like kind of to get all the main lines in here. So I continued this process of like offsetting what I was doing, you know, offsetting until I had kind of the main dimensions. Okay. And then at this point, like in order to draw the plan, like I need to have guidelines in here. I need like a bunch of lines that I'm going to use as guides for the plan. So I think what I want you to do is like rather than drawing every wall its own dimension and constantly guessing, like all the walls on the outside are going to have a single width that you will decide, and all the walls on the inside are going to have a single width that you will decide. So like I'm going to look at some of these walls, like let's go down here. This is like a very thick wall, right? And this is a thin wall. So like if I go to this line, which I offset from the big dimension, and then I'm going to offset it again, like let's try to figure out how thick this wall is. So I'm going to say 10 inches. That looks like about it, right? It's probably not 10 inches because this is probably in the metric system, but like I'm deciding that my thick walls are going to be 10 inches. There's another thick wall over here, so I'm going to offset that 10 inches. I'm going to offset this 10 inches. This wall, it looks like it's a thick wall too. This line isn't like perfectly aligned. And so I don't think that's going to matter to me. Maybe this dimension is slightly wrong that I got here. Like it looks like I did. This is in. I'm going to change I'm going to do my dimension, my distance command, and change this into. Let me offset this again. 4.9 meters. Yeah, so her dimension here is like, it doesn't look like it's perfectly aligning with the drawing underneath. And I don't care. I can either go off the dimension or I can decide I'm going to deviate from it, select these two lines and move them over like 2 inches or whatever so that they align with the underlying thing. It doesn't matter if your dimensions are perfect. What matters is it helps if they're if they're real numbers. So it helps if it's not like 0.66259974. Like you should guess like a size for the orthogonal dimensions so that Rhino doesn't have to deal with infinitesimal decimal points, which will get things less precise. So what I'm doing is I'm going through the plan and deciding like how much are the main dimensions in the plan, and I'm offsetting a guideline orthogonally to find what those are. And then I'm going to use that underlying set of orthogonal guidelines to trace the plan, basically. So like, I'm just going to go through here and like make some guesses. Okay. So like this wall looks like it's a skinny wall. So I'm going to offset this. If I don't want a full length dimension, okay, like one thing that I will do often is I'll draw like a shorter line. I'll just go polyline and I'll draw a shorter line right here. And then I'm going to offset this. Okay. I'm going to offset it 6 inches for that wall. And then I know I'm going to try to offset for this counter. Let's do offset 20 inches. It looks maybe too short. Offset 22 inches. That looks good to me. I'm going to offset it again. Let's try 7 feet, maybe 7'6". That looks good. Let's do offset 2 feet. Let's try offsetting, I don't know, 8 feet, 8'6". Too big, 8'4". That looks okay to me. Let's do a wall thickness, offset 6 inches. Let's do a bathroom size. And see, it doesn't match perfectly, but I've decided that all my interior walls are going to be 6 inches. Just using that. I'm going to do offset again. Let's try 5 feet, maybe 4'8". It looks pretty good. I'm going to do an offset 6 inches. It's too wide, but she probably made a skinny wall. I'm just going to ignore it. Let me do offset 9 feet. I don't know. I'm just guessing, right? I'm trying to find a reasonable dimension and make major guidelines throughout the plan. Yep. Is this not? Yeah. That's true, but the reason I'm doing this in feet when she did hers in meters is because I wanted to stress the point that it doesn't matter whether yours corresponds to hers. What matters is that you're self-consistent internally with yourself. Okay.
First. So, if you're looking for things to naturally exist in increments of low numbers, but the person is like better bets.
Yes, you should definitely use the units that the person used.
Same. So it's good to set it up with units that are units are likely to get math without flipping or pressing. But then to Carl's point, like you have to have your own internal logic to make things simple for yourself as you're drafting and know how thick things are for yourself. So that you're not just making micro decisions.
Yeah, so the first thing you should do is put this in the units of the original building. I totally agree. I totally agree. I didn't do it on purpose because I wanted to stress the fact that that if they don't have dimensions, which many of the plans don't, like you will have to make it up, like what the dimensions are. And so all that matters is that it's like reasonable and close. But I also agree, you're totally right. It's ridiculous that I'm doing this in feet when the building was made in meters. No, I don't think it's a criticism. I'm just, yes. So in order to do that, actually, let's do it. If I go to units, right, like, yes, I totally agree with that. You should definitely do it in the original units. But also what matters is that you're using consistent numbers for the wall thicknesses, and that you're using probably a different number for the exterior wall thickness, and that you're using like whole number increments mostly for interior things. Although you don't have to be obsessive about it. Like if you're drawing a closet, you can just, you could just decide. Does that sound right, Nancy? Okay. Okay. And then like the goal is this, right? The goal is, now I'm going to guess how wide this corridor is. I'm going to guess 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, 4'8", 4'9", 4'10", 6 inches. The goal is to make a skeleton of orthogonal construction lines so that you can draw the plan with some sort of precision. Okay. And all of those are going on this construction lines layer here. Okay, I'm going to offset this 6 inches. I'm going to do it again. Make a littler line here. Going to offset that 3'2", 10 inches, 24 inches, 7 feet, 6 feet. Yeah, I get confused. Yeah, I think the original lines are the lines I'm confident in. They're the lines that I like use to scale it. They're the lines I expect to appear on the other plan. And then I'm making other construction lines. Like, I'm not sure I'm going to draw every construction line before I start drawing the plan. I might delete some, I might move some around. So like I have and I get confused when there's just infinite construction lines everywhere. So like I'm trying to make it simpler for myself by having some hierarchy of the ones that are kind of like super important to me and decided upon, and then the other ones that I'm going to use to draw like rooms like locally. Yeah, and by the way, it's very annoying that I haven't locked this image. I could go over here and click this lock, but then I can't select the image anymore. What were you going to say? Turn off the construction too? Mm-hmm.
Never in. They're for you while you're work.
That's a really nice point. Yeah. These are the grid lines because this building has a grid. Not every building has a grid. Some buildings do not. Okay. Is this clear? Does anybody have questions about this? Yes. No. Yes. I'm only making like some dimensions that I can use to help myself draw the walls. These are all going to be invisible in the final drawing. Except as Nancy said, maybe the column lines. Sometimes you put column lines in a drawing because it looks pretty. Yeah. Okay. So I like, and if you look in here, like I think that's this step, draw construction lines. So the commands I used, offset to measure a distance, and I wrote it out. Like if there's a dimension, you can use that. Otherwise, guess. Sometimes you may have to draw some, and then like use whole numbers. I wrote out what I said. Okay, and then I also, like I wrote out some common dimensions. Closets are 24 inches deep. Bookshelves are often 18 or 12 inches. Kitchen islands are 3 feet. Like guidelines for measuring. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So like a good example of that would be, so I would actually typically have like I would do the orthogonal ones first. And then I would do like, if there's like a little doodad that's at a funny angle, like I might create a separate set of construction lines for that. If like a whole part of the building is rotated, I would like create a separate set of offsets from the rotated portion. Like an example would be where is it? This one, this Cochrane house. So like what I did is, let's kind of rotate this because it's at a funny angle. You can see first I sized off of these dimensions, right? And then in order to find this offset angle, I would typically draw like a vertical line, a line that is orthogonal. And then I will rotate it again by a known amount until I guess the right amount. So I would do like 10, let's try like 25 or something, too much. Let's do 10. So I got to something that was 13 degrees. Okay, it looks about right. The reason it's not just sure that the architect didn't pick some random angle, but it is true that if you know what the angle is, it will be easier for you to keep going back to that angle. And also if it will help Rhino with its memory issues. So like once you have a dimension like that, then I can see this looks like it says like 4.85 or something. So I can offset this 4.85 meters. And that looks about right. Okay, so like now there's a separate set of, and if I wanted to come this way, I could do like a line perp, draw a line here. And then I could, offset this for, what does that say? Whatever it is. You know what I mean? I could offset this, in that direction. Or I could do a line, just the command line, click here and use my perp snap, kind of make sure it says perp when I click, and then I can offset things in the other direction and make guidelines that way. So if it's like that, if it's a big element, you pick an angle and make an oriented thing. A different example would be I have another example in this one, in the other house over here. Like there was this little bay window on the side. And there was a little bay window. I don't know why the plan isn't showing. There it is. There's a little bay window. And what I did is first I finished the orthogonal construction lines like this. And then I just drew a little line here. And I went like rotate, 45 degrees, just there as like another little step. And also like, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if you just went in here and, did that. It would just not be quite as easy to replicate like later on down the line. Okay. So, that is, and also, I think you can get overly worried about drawing every single like construction line that you need in the building, like to the point where it gets overwhelming. Like basically, you might not finish it before you start drawing some part of the plan like in a little bit more greater detail, and you can go back and add some construction lines later. I think it's good to have a construction line before you model something when you're tracing a plan. It's not always true when you're drawing a plan. Sometimes you'll just, do what we were doing before. Like if I wanted to draw like a new room, I might go like 10 feet, 12 feet, 10 feet. You know what I mean? Like that. Okay, so basically, like I got to this point, okay, where it looks kind of like this plan is left alone, and I've got all these like lines in here representing like parts of representing as many things as I think are sort of important. And then what I do is I go in and I like fill in the walls. So like there are different ways of doing this. You can you should put your layer on the cut layer. Okay, so if you go to the cut layer and you make that the current layer by double clicking on it, it will be what you will be drawing on. So what I typically do is I will go around and I'll make rectangles. Honestly, is this how you do it, Nancy? I don't know. Tell me. I make rectangles like for the walls. Like I'll go and I'll go like that. I'll be going around like making rectangles like to kind of complete the walls. Or sometimes if I can't make a rectangle, I'll draw like a polyline. see, I messed this up because I didn't have a guideline. So like if I didn't have a guideline there, I'd probably go back, draw a temporary guideline, offset it 6 inches, and like move these things. Or I would like realize that I didn't make a guideline, and I would not do that part. I'd stop and I'd go back in here, draw a little line here, offset it. Yeah, some polylines and some little rectangles. But basically, like if I were to go through in here and turn off the construction lines and turn off the image, I'm starting to see the walls. And the goal is, you know, if I turn on the print display, you know, it'll start to look like a plan. And so like what I need to do is go through and trace the walls. And I don't need to worry about doors when I'm doing this. And I don't need to worry about any detail. And I don't need to worry about I don't need to worry about like whether the walls kind of are joined correctly. I can join them all with each other later. So like all I want to do is kind of get a sketch of but I do want to draw precisely, because imagine I had done this and I had done something like, you know, like that. That would be annoying, right? So I want to go through and I want to draw as many of the walls as I think as I can. Okay, and when that is finished, I should have something like that looks kind of like this, like a bunch of walls on this, and then what I can do. What I can do is turn them off. And I can see that I've got that. Okay, and then here, what I will often do is like turn off, I'll keep the image, turn off the guidelines, and copy this over. So let me go to this step. So this is the trace walls step. Okay, so I've got this here now. Let me turn off the construction lines and copy this over. And I've got something that looks like this. Okay, so I've got only one layer, only walls, and only with no doors and no anything else going on. Okay, so after you have this, let me kind of get myself set up here again. I would be here. That would be this draw walls layer. Okay, so once I'm here, I think there is you can start to put things on layers. Like you can see like this layer, this little hole, this little edge, this little area. These are not walls. They're like skinny lines. They represent glass. And so this is like a glass wall, and that I know because this is because of the pictures. Like I know that I'm in this a large room and that there's a glass wall all the way around the outside. And so when I look at this single line here that's going around the outside, I assume that's how she's representing, you know, that. So that line is either going to be the edge of the floor of the slab of the floor, or it's going to be glass. And so I'm going to put that line right now on my like beyond layer, which is the layer for things that are low to the ground. So like if you look at the layers here, there's the cut layer, the cut glazing. I could have put it on that, the cut glazing layer. But I think, and this one, I think this is just an opening. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm looking at the plan, whether this is glass or whether it's the edge of a floor or whether it's, you know, what it is. But I'd have to find a photo of that spot, which let me see if I can do it. There it is. Look, there's like, it's an opening. So that little thing in the background there is a hole. And so this little line here is an edge. So I'm going to put it on my beyond layer. And then this, I think, is glass. That's that little hole in the middle. I'm just going to put this on my glazing layer. Okay, so I have a kind of an outline of a plan, very simply with a few different layers. Yes, Nancy. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, honestly, it's very hard, I think, to troubleshoot all of the ways that you might have to do this. Like, I mostly want to be doing it with you guys, but I want to lay out the steps. But like for circles, you have a thought? There are ways. I mean, like I think in the Melnikov, there's a center marked for the circle. Let's do it. Like if I do like a 3-point circle, I do circle, 3-point. I can click here, click here. Now, the thing that happens here though is this is typically like, this is a circle of unknown size. So I would type radius, and it will tell me that the radius is 32 feet 9 7/8. So then what I would do is I would make a point, mark the center, which is hard, click point, kind of mouse over the edge till it says center, mark the center, or do it with a little crosshairs. And then I would delete this circle and replace it with a circle that's 32 foot 10 inches. Like that.
These walls all relate to this towards it. So if you want a grid line that helps place these in space, you're going to go along with it. Right? So just if you're in a circle situation.
The other example of that is this one over here. and it has radial lines. And by the way, when I was looking at this, let me just do it again. Like I had something like that. And so what I did is I drew a line, like sort of from the middle here, up like this. And then I did an array, polar, and I counted them. I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And I did an array polar from this point with 16 items. And it turns out they're evenly spaced. And then like I made a circle like that, okay, sort of guessing, did a radius 20 foot 3 and 5/8. And so then I'm going to just like replace that with 20 foot 4 to rationalize it. And so that is, and then once you have a circle, you can offset 6 inches or 8 inches or 10 inches. Now, what's lovely, by the way, is the circle plans, they tend to have less walls. So even though setting up your initial geometry is like more complicated, like this plan's almost done. Right? Like,
In this case, like this box, it's offsetting this axis. You can see like these two lines are parallel with this axis in the middle. So there's no actual wall on this grid line, but it's still a useful line for you. So be mindful that the grid line might not be about where the wall is. It might be where the center is.
Yeah, like, and this box is clearly at its own funny angle here. So what I would do is I would draw a line along this. I would guess again some other offset orientation like or 4 or 5.5 or whatever. And then after I'm there, I can't read those dimensions, but it looks orthogonal. So I'm going to try offsetting, you know, something like that. Okay, so like you're trying to make a version of the geometry of the geometric diagram that's going to help you draw the house. By the way, if you look at the schedule, okay, it's relatively ambitious in terms of the speed, but like that's because like I don't know, like what matters to me fundamentally is that over the next 3 weeks that you get a set of plans, you build a Rhino model, and you build a physical model. That is very doable. You will all be able to do that. The other stuff is like, in addition, if you're going faster, so if somebody's very familiar with it, somebody has partial background, somebody's very quick with Rhino, there's other stuff for them to do. Because I have to make it so that you have 3 weeks with me. I have to make it so that every single one of you learns as much as you can without staying up late, right? So that's the goal, is to give you as much as you can do in the class time and in a little bit extra without exhausting you, without having you stay up late, but also without boring. So there's like a variety of targets. The minimum is you trace the plan, you draw a model, you draw a Rhino model, and you build a physical model. The maximum is that you do all the various things on the assignment sheet with the extra. And that is not like you're getting extra credit if you do extra drawings, because like this is practice. It's like you know, if you're in class and you're sitting around with nothing to do, like you can do that because there's an extra thing that you can learn that is a little more complicated and interesting. Okay, so like because everyone comes in at the GSD with wonderfully many different levels of experience. That's why we admit you all from different levels of background, because it makes a mix and people have different kinds of experience. So, but because the whole class starts at a wide range, we have to teach to like a wide range. So that's why the schedule looks the way it does. So let's say you're going tomorrow and you don't finish your plans at the end of the day. It's not like you're going to run out of time. It's like there's plenty of time to do the things that like that you need to do. And then like, it's just, you know, somebody might have a simple house and do a plan and be done. And then there needs to be something for them to do, because I'm not just gonna send you home. You know what I mean? Like, I need to make sure that you get your money's worth, right? Okay, so that's, this is the first step, and I think is to try to rationalize. We call it rationalization. You're getting like a funny drawing, and you're trying to rationalize what is the underlying kind of governing order, so that you can make some guidelines that will allow you to draw the walls. And then after you do that, you draw the walls and you put them on the wall. Okay? Yes. Oh, Maria, you have a question.
No,
Maria?
I don't. No, I don't. Hello?
Okay.
No, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, does anybody have a question about that? Is it, I mean, I know it's like, we haven't done any of the steps in full, but like, I hope it's making sense. We talked about round things, we talked about orthogonal things, we talked about rotated things. And that's sort of, everything, in terms of construction lines. Okay. Okay. So I think once I got here, there's also all these columns. And what I wanted to do here actually is, like, if I was doing this sort of correctly, let me set it up more correctly. If I was doing this sort of correctly, I would have my version that has all these construction lines, and then I would have the version that has, I would have the version that has all the lines drawn on each other, and then I have the version that has only the lines that I have sort of taken out here. I would have something like this. I want to draw these little columns in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go back and get the grid lines, the main grid lines that I drew from this previous thing, and copy them over into this new drawing. Well, first I'm going to copy this to another step. So every time I'm moving on, I make a new step. You don't necessarily need to do all the steps that I do, but like basically when I'm doing a new thing, I'm copying it down. And so what I want to do is draw these little columns in here. And I got rid of my grid lines from this particular drawing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here. I'm going to lock this drawing, okay? Then I'm going to lock swap. Then I'm going to go here, right click on construction one, select objects, and then I'm going to copy like that. And then I'm going to unlock. So like one of the things that's like very tricky is like, and that helps you go quickly, is if you think of like a method for selecting things that is like less painful than like going around and like picking every single line like this. And the way that if I go to this layer and I right click and I go select objects, I'll select all of the objects on that layer in all the drawings. Sometimes I will do that and then I'll just go around and deselect everything else. Or I can just, you know, lock this layer, lock swap, and then anything I select can only be here, only in this one. Lock, swap. And that allows me to select things from just this drawing from their layer. And then once I go over here, I can make a circle. Or let's say it was a square, I can make a circle for a column. Like put that on, I made a separate layer for cut structure here. And I can go around and copy that, copy it to each of the places where there's a column. Okay, So that's why I kept the grid lines separate, is because I knew I would want to go back and use them like for a different like set of drawings, and I would never want to go back and collect all of those other lines. Okay, so here I have the grid lines. Let me see what's next in my step here. Okay, that's the end of this trace walls. Okay, so first we did scale the image, then we do draw construction lines, then we're doing trace walls. And now the last step is there's add doors and then add stairs. Okay, so if I'm going to add doors, what I do here to add doors is I need to make a set of construction lines for the doors, for the openings of the doors. And so what I will do is I'll go back to my construction layer here, and I will start I'll start drawing like here. I'll draw a line. I'll offset this to 1'6", 1'8", offset it 3 feet. Let's do it here. Offset 2 inches, 3 feet. Let's just make a line here. Offset 3 feet. Too big, 28 inches. That's the minimum size for a door. So I'm going around and I'm trying to mark where the doors are going to be. So anytime I need to add some construction lines that are fully through the wall and mark the doors. Is this confusing what I'm doing? Somebody please tell me. I'm just going to do it for a minute so that it feels less confusing. I know doors are usually 3 feet, so I first check 3 feet, but then I know doors in houses can be as small as 28 inches, especially in old houses. So I'm just looking for the size of a door. I'm usually marking the corner of a room and then offsetting again. And sometimes like a door like this might be in the center, look like it's in the center. And then I'll make a line from one side to the other, and I'll use my midpoint snap, and I'll offset like half the width of the door, like that. Sometimes, by the way, I'll get bored and I'll just start guessing. Like for doors, I'll just do something like that. This is like a big opening, so I put a wall here. So I'm just going to add a guide here. I'm going to add a guide here. I'm going to offset 2 feet. Looks like that's a guide. So I'm just looking for where I'm going to trim out some openings. Okay, I'm just trying to find, like, mark the places that I need to trim out some openings. Pretty fun. So I have to say, like, all of this marking of doors, like it's a little tedious. But I think my perspective on that is that when you're doing it in your real life, in architecture school, you will be doing it sort of as you go. And now, like, it's still useful because you need to get familiar with using Rhino. And so I think it is, even though it's tedious, I think it will, some of the drafting, I think is actually like, it's about getting faster and getting familiar with the commands. Okay, so I'm sort of marking, you can see I was missing a wall, so I made some guidelines for that wall. I'm kind of just marking all the places that there are going to be openings and filling in walls that I've sort of missed. Like here's a wall that I missed, so let's make a guideline here. Is it clear what I'm doing? I'm just kind of catching errors and marking openings. I feel like I'm getting there. Okay, I think I might have gotten it. Okay, so now that I'm here, I'm going to hide this layer. I'm going to hide the image. I'm going to hide my big construction lines. I'm going to hide my columns. And I'm going to select all of this. Actually, I should leave the image on. And I'm going to do a curve Boolean. Okay. And then I'm going to have a combine regions yes, delete input none. And I'm going to go around and select the merged version of the wall. And then I will hit, oh, I'm missing part. Okay, and then I will hit circles there, shouldn't be. Okay, and then I'll hit enter, and then it did the curve Boolean. Okay, so now I get here, and I could either select this border and copy it over like that, or I could, well, I usually do that. Okay, so these are the kind of cleaned up version of the walls. And then, or you could do kind of the thing Nancy was doing where you delete the input as you're doing it. Once I'm here, I can put these back on the wall layer. And then I can go over here and I can turn off the construction layer, turn off the wall layer, and copy everything else over and then turn back on those layers. Okay, so I got, by doing that, like a clean version of the walls with the doors subtracted. Okay, so you can see I made some errors like this or like that, where the drawing is kind of messed up. And if that happens, you have two options. You can either select all that, curve Boolean it again, and you kind of figure out what's wrong. Then after I create it, sometimes what I'll do is I'll do a Control X to copy it out. Then I'll delete the original and paste it back in and put it on its layer. This is kind of messed up too. The other thing you can do is you can explode it, kind of go into here and fix it manually, and then kind of rejoin it. Okay, so essentially, the process is after you get like a basic outline of the walls, you go back through locally and you draw the door openings with some guidelines, you draw some guidelines for walls that you missed, and you merge all your walls together using the curve Boolean command. So does that make sense, or did I do that too quickly? Should I do you need to see another example, or is that sort of making sense? Like I think the issue that I think maybe stands out to me as sort of confusing is the copying and pasting from things from one layer to another layer to another layer to another layer. I feel like I do that kind of too quickly, and it's very kind of confusing when I do it. But essentially, because there's so many copies of the drawing, it kind of gets confusing. And so when I'll do a curve Boolean, or I'll do like, I'll usually copy that layer to a new box, edit it there, and then afterwards either delete the data in the old box or copy the data from the other layers over. So like if I show everything and I turn off the layers that I use to construct it, so if I turn off my constructions and I turn off the wall layer, then I can just select all these things, copy them to the new box again, and then turn back on all the layers. So like basically, if I do a curve Boolean, I copy the curve Boolean to a new box, turn everything off, copy all the other things, and then I turn everything back on again. So, and sometimes I think it can be a little, you can kind of mess it up if you're forever and ever doing a single curve Boolean. Like if you're clicking on too many things. I made these columns too big, I'm sorry, it's very annoying. But like if I were going through this again, like what I would do is maybe I don't do the entire thing all at once. Like maybe I go through here and I do like a piece of it. With this delete input used on. And then that should have, I can copy that over like that, and in sort of parts, and then do another one, okay? So the doors is make some new guidelines and merge everything using a curve Boolean, okay? And then the last step is typically to add stairs, but before you can add stairs, you need to go on and do the other plan sort of up to the same level so that you can get the stairs to go from one to the other. So once you get here, it's sort of kind of done. wait, where am I? Sorry. It's sort of completed enough that you would be able to use it to build a 3D model. And so I think the next step would be to transfer some of the data from this plan into the other plan and start working across the two of them. Can I check in with people? Are you guys following me, or am I losing you? How tired is everybody? Are you okay? You can't find this file. Okay. Which file? It's not there. Please open it up and take a look at it if it's there now, okay? What I'd like to do is to stop, and maybe I'll pick up like tomorrow and let like you guys try to do it while we have 45 minutes here still before class ends, and we can go around and answer questions and like see and start the process of actually like working through things. Okay, so the first step is to try to put a drawing in, scale it, then compare it to the one that I did for the scale, or just use your own, put a box around it, and then to start sort of making guidelines and tracing it. And then I can pick up here tomorrow, or I can pick up at the end of the day, or we can start going around. But I think while everyone's still here, we should spend the rest of the time getting going, okay? So that file you can use, if you can find it, you can use it to follow along. But the only parts that we've gone through are we've gone through like up to here, basically. So like you can open this file and you can delete or hide everything but this. Okay, this is the import the image, scale the image, draw the construction lines, trace the walls, add doors. And that puts you here. Okay, so these 1, 2, 3, 4 steps are where we are now, and I think I just want you guys to start doing it, okay? And you guys are here, so you can go around, and I'll come around, and then we'll meet back here at 10, and we'll in the morning, and we'll keep going with this until everyone sort of has it going, and then we'll go on. Okay.
So check again